Today we answer the question, is it possible to progress in Half-Sword with enemy damage and gore set to the maximum? We start off by choosing the flail as our starting weapon and slapping the tutorial dummy a few times for good measure. Boasting a massive starting wealth of 25 gold coins, we immediately go shopping for some shoes. Our first taste of blood comes from a few cellar duels, where the superior reach of our flail shines brightly, mostly weaving around potentially lethal enemy swings. With our confidence boosted, we try our luck at fighting a cellar champion, who humbly eats a hefty meal of flail, spoon-fed right to the face. The next morning begins with another cellar champion round, but this is where the sheer insanity of max enemy damage and max gore combines. One tap from their axe is enough to explode our chance of living. However, no vengeful spirits are after us yet in the afterlife, so we casually resurrect and go back to smacking burly dudes in a dank cellar and manage to steal a scythe.
Have mercy on me. I smell.
We get a brief breath of fresh air in the slums, but the one-shot nature of enemy swings becomes more and more apparent. The essence of combat boils down to who gets slapped first, which is most often determined by the length of one's shaft, except the enemy slaps like a freight train versus our wet noodle. After giving this guy the MJ nose job he had always wanted, we utilized the new undressing mechanic and outfitted ourselves in some fresh threads. Our task was clear: slap beggars until the tournament unlocks. A sufficient amount of noodle overdoses eventually grants us access to the beggar tournament. I'm sure the decision to hire mercenaries won't ruin us financially. The first two opponents are generously fed hearty meals of flail. For the 2v2s, our hired muscle joins us and shows no remorse as he cleaves our enemies, fully utilizing the maxed out gore settings. The first 3v3 round is where things go downhill. At least one of our decoys gets chopped up, shortly after which we get nicked in the side and quickly bleed out. Now, this means no money won, and our bet on the tourney is lost. With a measly 13 coins left, we head to the cellar for some well-earned revenge. The axe that killed us is now our backup weapon, a token to our perseverance even in the face of literal death. Having learned nothing from the last financial folly, I went all in on a mercenary who impressed me with the length of his girthy stick. To enter the tournament, we now need to sell our unequipped possessions. The first two rounds are passed through with some well-placed love taps to the dome. The first of the 2v2s was nearly ended prematurely from overconfidence and a cheeky slap. However, the stick-wielding duo graduated, having forced the enemies to surrender under threat of imminent slappage. The first of the 3v2s started off strong, but tragedy struck. If tragedy was the name of the axe that severed our teammate's arm. Fueled by grief and poverty, we proceed to get our butt kicked by a small mob.
Be not the cause of my fault.
Alas, they fell for the good old fake surrender, a mistake for which they paid dearly in bruises and hemorrhages, stripped of all dignity and some of their clothes. The final fight of the tournament took place in the dramatic evening light. Footwork was our only hope as the massive brute of a champion swung his hoe at us, two of his minions chasing us down like rabid dogs. One well-placed slap from a shirtless maniac was enough to end our dreams of winning. With a pitiful 2 coins to our name, we cannot afford even basic healthcare. Faced with bankruptcy while wounded, we agreed to run an errand for the innkeeper. We slowly wail away at a barrel, speeding up its fate of becoming firewood. However, the cost is dire. Our body breaks even more, and our morale sinks in what may just be our lowest moment in the run. The sheer pain of our beggar body failing causes us to black out. Alas, the job is not done yet. After regaining consciousness, we kick the barrel into submission and earn that juicy payment of 5 whole gold coins. The innkeeper takes pity on us and heals us for a symbolic coin. Having reached rock bottom, we partake in illicit underground pugilism. With our body as weak as it is, we need any advantage we can get. A pan, and even better, a stool comes to our aid. Swinging wood against unconsenting dudes seems to be the way to rise up in the ranks. So we stool all over their faces. Alas, like an anime power trip, one punch is enough to pop our ballooning hopes of success. Fueled by an adrenaline dump and desperation, we jump to our feet, reach for the stool and swing hopelessly, our broken body finally giving up. The round ends with the crippling snap of our bones breaking. With such damage sustained, we are once again outpriced out of healthcare. At this point, I really start to question whether this run was even doable. Our brave warrior cried himself to sleep that night. The next morning, we look to the innkeeper for an errand to save us from financial ruin once again. Picking up our trusty flail once more, we opt to enter the tourney alone. Well, I guess we have our destitution as our companion. Slap is the name of the game, as our shaft penetrates deep into the tourney rounds.
I got my plea, and thy godness, grant me leave to live.
When the triple danger starts, we use cardio to our advantage and line our opponents up like a choo-choo train and flail away at them. One touch from their blades is enough to explode us into human flesh chicken strips with these damage settings. Our life flashes before our eyes as a pickaxe clips our torso, but the jacket we stole eats the hit like a famished child laborer. The next round we vow not to make that same mistake, and, despite our bruises, beat our 3 opponents into submission. In the last round we face what seems an insurmountable challenge once again. The champion brute swings his massive hoe with complete disregard for safety and mortality. His bodyguards fall amongst the swinging of shafts. We trade hits and barely survive. The next hit we land is possibly the most significant hit of the round. Blood spills from the champion's armpit. The sheer momentum of his swing backfires and his hoe leaves him for good. Victory is ours, along with the infamous hoe and 70 crisp doubloons. Life is good, as we finally ascend to the rank of peasant. Foolishly, in our pursuit of length, we stick with the hoe, and this is where the issues with the current physics engine rarely shine. Swings are unwieldy, inaccurate, unreliable, and can even be prone to glitching. Understandably, we lose that round, heal up, and go back to our long-lasting love, the flail. We run a new errand for the innkeeper and drag a drunkard to his home. It is worth noting at this point that whenever there is a chance and necessity, I paid off any vengeful souls. The zombies in the abyss have an absolutely broken and busted biting mechanic that we do not want to deal with. Having chosen the carnage mode for our next fight, we go for a stroll mushroom picking in the forest while our enemies maim each other and bleed out. In the next round, we nearly crush an enemy's melon, but luckily they survive.
Have mercy on me.
In a round of knockdown, our frailty takes the limelight. Even buying a fancy mace didn't win us the rematch. So, once again, we take our flail to the dingy cellar for some slappage. However, we end up the one being slapped. We pay dearly in healthcare bills. Disheartened, we take to the slums for some mud wrestling and recoup some of our losses. Emboldened, we go forward with a 1v3 in the Buhurt mode. We try to use some big brain tactics by running our enemies into enraged beehives, which worked a bit too well, sending us off into an anaphylactic reaction-induced nap, snatching victory right from our grasp. From this point on, our tactic remained pretty consistent. Wait for the enemy to whiff, and then capitalize with a cheeky slap. The biggest problem that was starting to occur was the length of enemy shafts. It's a repeat from the hoe tactics all over again. That, combined with the enemy damage cranked up and maxed out gore, resulted in a demoralizing streak of losses. Many attempts at the peasant tourney were made. However, the gods were smiling upon us, and by their miracle, we survived the business end of an axe-murderer's solution to all of their problems. This blessing was short-lived, as we then got humiliated in a dank basement, lifted up by a bear of a man. We were shown the true meaning of might.
For the love of God.
Once again, our tourney attempts were literally cut short. Worst of all, our past misdeed finally caught up with us. One soul demanded vengeance. However, the flail, like a holy relic, reigned supreme, raising us back up into the world of the living. Our protagonist, however, was too tired to get up off the ground. At this point, I was starting to get progressively more annoyed by the jank of the game and the maxed out settings. But a particularly spectacular beating of a Cellar champion restored some of my zeal.
What gain is there in blood spilt?
Eventually, our incessant attempts at the peasant tourney was starting to pay off.
Now, sir.
We hired a fellow floppy stick enthusiast, and my goodness was he an asset. And by that I mean he got immediately chopped up, bestowing his equipment upon us for the next rounds. This new flail is magnificent. It is longer, it slaps harder with a metal reinforced beater. It fully made up for our mercs getting chopped up. We could now roleplay as an overdressed pool boy swatting at extremely aggressive leaves. That was until our weapon got stuck in the ground and we got turned into minced meat. By the luckiest of luck, we held on to our new toy even through death. So we immediately insured it and got back to some good old solo shaft swinging and meat slapping. Despite the issues with our weapon getting stuck in the ground, we finally managed to mop everyone up in the peasant tourney. Ascendancy is finally here. We rise up to the title of commoner. Not a beggar, no longer a peasant. We are now a respectable commoner. For our first fight, we beat a commoner champion into the thrushes strewn about the cellar floor. We eat good tonight as we loot our victim of his tin hat. If you're wondering why we keep losing so much money outside of fights, it's because I keep splurging on dumb things like the insurance of weapons we then often don't end up using at all. Alas, we go into the forest for some domestic violence against our fellow commoners and end up going home wearing somebody else's clothes. Over the course of the next fights, we scavenge whatever new bits of armor we can. A highlight is a particularly clean slap in this fight. In the next fight, one dude decided to turn on immortality, whereas the other rose from his surrendered state and chased us as we ran away towards our victory. What we really wanted, though, is gear. And what better way to get gear than to hire a mercenary and lead him to his death? So we stood around in a few rounds of doubles and watched our paid minion's handiwork. Eventually, he took an axe to the neck, so we took out his aggressors and stripped him for parts, which may or may not have directly contributed to his death. With our newly acquired drip, we immediately go back to converting fellow travelers to flailism. However, in the cellar we meet what will prove to be possibly the biggest menace of this run: spears. The damage and gore settings combined turn the tip of those overly long sticks into what may as well be an intercontinental ballistic missile. At this point, this may sound quite repetitive, but footwork and a well-placed slap are our only hope. Sidestepping the spears is essential, but harder done than said. Eventually, after flailism has been introduced to sufficiently many new disciples, we try our hand at the commoner tournament, along with a hired decoy who turned out to be a psychopath and was then stripped for parts. In the finale, I swear one of the champion's bodyguards was souped up on some drugs and thought he was the newest model of Terminator, as he just kept getting back up. The champion himself ate a tasty backswing slap to the face, and after being pinned down by the neck, decided his life was worth living outside of this yard. As our payment, we equipped all the bucklers we could find, exiting with a mighty total of 5 bucklers and 1 pavis. Unfortunately, only 2 bucklers were available to sell to the merchant. Nevertheless, we were now at the rank of militia. It is our job description, even our calling, to gear up and spread the slap even further than before. We first test our new might against a forest champion who we disarm and slap around, like the cellar bullies used to do to us. Emboldened by that success, we delve into a 3v1 in a buhat. We try to pick them off, but one of our opponents is wielding another exceedingly deadly bonk stick in the form of a halberd. The momentum of the blade on it is insane, and the accuracy of the NPC's overheads uncanny. We must dance and prance away from it, nearly losing the fight by walking into a tree. We close the distance upon their missed swing and switch to a wider grip to smack the halberder down to the ground and force a surrender. At this point, it was evident that our pavis was more of a hindrance than an aid, so we swapped that bit of defense for better stability. Instead, we spent nearly all of our hard-earned cash on all the armor overhauls we could afford. From here, we went back into a familiar rhythm: dodge, slap, and slowly earn our way towards the next tourney. Some of our opponents were sporting our weapon of choice and had to be eliminated with immediate urgency. During a round of first blood doubles, the spear reared its ugly head and showed us just how dangerous it is. We took some delicious revenge upon that wanker in the cellar. Like a magpie drawn to the shine of armor, we invest in a hauberk. Now, throughout this run, I have mentioned dangerous enemy weapons quite a bit, and that trend is not quite over. Behold the war staff, a long shaft fitted with a bouquet of spikes, the perfect gift for any face longing for the afterlife. In this clash of Titan-grade weapons, we both end up disarmed. To survive, I have to resort to the one thing we have been avoiding for so long: close-range blade fighting to the death. We will have to pay this soul off in the afterlife, or it will end us for sure. And so we whittle away at more fights, slowly rising in the ranks, working our way towards the tourney. We even managed another sick halberd kill. Having escaped with our life, we upgrade our flail once again. The shortened shaft in our hands grants a lot better control over the swings. while the longer metal-enriched payload at the end does plenty of damage. There was one moment here in the first blood mode that really showed how broken the high damage and gore settings are. Our leg is nearly severed by our enemy tripping over while holding a falchion. Naturally, we exact our revenge in the cellar of bodily harm and proceed to turn the face of a local dual-yard champion concave. After a few more side missions, we finally have enough rank progress to head to the militia tourney in the company of a fellow swingy boppy boy. The game plan remains the same: dodge, slap, repeat. The second round spearman makes this particularly dangerous, but we persevere. Not even an enemy flail or spear could withstand the might of our wooden noodles, despite one bloke's attempt at immortality.
Be not the cause of my death. I cry in mercy.
Unfortunately, in the finale, the champion's halberd proved to be lethal as it mowed down our teammate.
I got my plea, and I got this.
The showdown was intense, but some well-placed bonks caused the champion to lose grip, which we immediately capitalized upon. However, our opponent wasn't quite finished, as he shrugged off our beating and went for one of the weapons lying around on the floor. We thrashed, and we smashed, and with a large dose of luck, we managed to finally secure the win. The battlefield was ripe for our scavenging, with the sweet dessert of 159 coins and the title of Soldier unlocked. With our newly gained privilege, we take to the streets to bully the locals. To quench our thirst for a challenge, we jump right into a round of carnage. And then some forest doubles. As good as it is to have armor, it's more of a morale boost than sufficient protection for these cranked damage values. It does, however, make for some boast-worthy swag, so we flaunt it in the streets as the personal bodyguard of the innkeeper's favorite drunkard.
And I got this. Grant me leave to live.
On our way back home, we run into a spear-wielding maniac, who we pummel sufficiently enough to then strip for some glorious additional parts, bringing us closer to the ultimate form of a tin can with legs. However, as evidenced here, our enemies are wielding can openers. I wouldn't really expect a spear to KO anybody like it's a pole hammer. Alas, with these current settings, we may as well be a paper-wrapped marshmallow. A light tap then finishes us off instantly. If you want to see how mental the power difference is, here are 2 attempts of fighting against an enemy with the same flail as us. Absolutely miserable. To vent our frustration, we go into the slums to exact some royal tax extraction and crowd control by quenching a riot. Having regained our blood-fueled composure, we revisit our flail-wielding arch-nemesis. To take him out, we need to refocus on footwork and capitalize on the enemy missing. It's like the early game all over again. It was well worth it though, as we further upgraded our scrap collection at his cost. For good measure, we gave this naughty boy a thorough spanking, warning him to never use the flail against us again. Charged up with the might of our flail, we lay waste to some buttholes in our back alley and collect some more taxes from the poor slum dwellers. We dare not show our face, lest we be recognized. The nostalgic, muddy smell of the place of our origins fills our nostrils. During a round of doubles, we ran into our enemy's mischievous trap. We slip on his shield and eat dirt, gravity proving to be exceptionally strong there since our character takes an entire week of annual leave just to get up. To ensure our survival, we resort to slitting the poor bugger's throat with our sword. As a warm-up before the tourney, we decide to do a 3v1 boo-hurt in the yard, and end up having to deal with two exceedingly long, pointy sticks. Despite our enemies booting up their Terminator mode, we walk away with some new greaves on our legs. Ready for the soldier tourney, we hire ourselves some lackeys and enter the fray. The first two rounds are both populated by pricks wielding dangerously long sticks. Nevertheless, we manage to dodge and counter them both. In the third round, our newly joined teammate quickly eats the dust, as once again our enemies are sporting excessively long weapons. This will unfortunately be a recurring theme. Luckily, our foes fumble around and we manage to introduce them to the business end of our flail. In the fourth round, our teammate earns his pay as an effective decoy, allowing us to further climb the tourney ladder. The 3v3s begin, and we have a dangerous battle of the flails, but our overwhelming forces prevail. Both mercs not only survive, but actually pulled their weight. Well, until they were both smacked down in the penultimate round.
No!
In the final round, our last and most squishy decoy joins us and is quickly dispatched of. The tourney champion brandishes an enormous threat as his strength supercharges the already deadly spear. One gentle strike is enough to throw us off balance. The champion's strategy, is impenetrable, as he taunts us by Fortnite emoting with his spear repeatedly. His might is insurmountable. Although we managed to regain our footing, all of our attempts are futile, even when trying to leverage the broken Gore settings with our cheese cutter. Like a schoolyard bully repeating a year for the 5th time, he proceeds to humiliate us further, literally kicking our ass. At this point, we are barely able to hold a weapon. Out of desperation, we pick up a bull hook and try to cut up any exposed part of the champion we can reach. It is now that the champion reveals he is not only a demigod, but a Sith disciple, as he uses the Force to pull us to the ground. Narrowly, we escape once again in this epic battle of attrition. Severely battered, we wail on him weakly as the champion shrugs off any small cuts we inflict. The nuclear meltdown of the spear's tip proves too powerful, any contact causing massive damage. Our multiple armor upgrades are the only thing keeping us alive, a worthy investment. After some more toying with us, a final overhead crushes us into the ground, the game's busted momentum physics launching the tip of his spear into our head like a high-caliber sniper shot. After hospitalization and healing, we hired more decoys and retried the soldier tournament, but at this point, the fight with the champion had me thoroughly tilted. I became reckless and quickly lost to the war star. It took some more losses and then a spree of revenge to cool me down. In the morning, we found ourselves standing on the familiar blood-soaked tourney grounds. In the first round, we are immediately challenged by a halberd, but secure the win. Our second opponent, luckily, hadn't learned what the current meta was, and was hence easily toppled. In the first of the doubles, we are joined by our own spear thrust emoting maniac. He is so eager for blood, he doesn't even let our enemy's surrender stop him from poking some new holes into existence. His spree of destruction was seemingly short-lived as a war star pummels our teammate into the ground. To my surprise, he rose up like a phoenix from the ashes, rushing to our aid. Round 4 ends up cleared. For round 5, the range advantage is on our side. Both of our hired mercs are sporting long, pointy sticks, so we turn our enemies into Swiss cheese. As soon as round 6 started, I rushed to assist my teammate against what I perceived as the biggest danger, but the Gore settings took no mercy as our other mate got mercilessly chopped up. Alas, his sacrifice was not in vain as we advanced to the finale. The suspense and tension skyrocket as we proceed to see what awaits us in the hands of the champion. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. The champion has been gifted by the gods with the weapon of ultimate destruction. He brandishes his flail with incomprehensible might as his two lackeys waste no time in slitting my teammate's throat. Slowly and methodically, we weave around and take out the trash so we can 1v1 the beefy boy himself. A straggler needs some additional attending to, but after that, the final showdown can truly begin. As soon as the clash starts, we are thrown to the ground by the virtue of our opponent just standing there. Inexplicably, we are granted mercy and the chance to regain our footing. Even when the champion misses, the upswing is strong enough to severely damage us. In an act of desperation, we close the distance and start flailing. Yet again, we barely escape. Fueled by hatred, we dive in for a last time. This time, we succeed. A lucky strike brings the brute to the ground. We immediately pin his neck, securing the win. After a quick surveil of the battlefield in search of potential loot, we ascend to the rank of veteran. It was at this point in the evening I had thoroughly had enough. All I wanted now was to order a kebab and watch a movie to unwind. So here is where this part of the saga ends. From this point on, enemies get juiced up even more as they start to wield polearms. I tried my luck at a few rounds and ate a very cheeky spear to the face, which teleported mid-extension as I dodged in for a counter. If you'd like to watch the entirety of the footage, I've linked a VOD version in the description. This uncut version shows the game settings at multiple times during continuous footage to quell any doubts, although I do believe the absolute BS of some of the fights shown in this video speaks for itself. If you'd like to witness a continuation of this masochistic exercise, let me know and it may just come true. Thanks for watching, have a good one.